So yeah, just to reiterate, if you do have a problem with hearing the audio, please let me know, okay? So let's get started. So today we're going to be looking at IELTS speaking, culture and leisure. So the outline of the webinar is we'll be looking at likes and dislikes, giving an opinion, how to describe a book or a film, and then as usual there'll be a Q&A session at the end. So please feel free to ask questions as you go along. Occasionally I should be able to answer them, but ones that I can't answer we'll try to look at the end. Okay, so let's get going. So we'll just look at the aims. By the end of the webinar, you'll be able to talk about likes and dislikes, use ing or ed adjectives to describe activities, answer common part 1 questions on leisure activities, describe a book or a movie in part 2, and use a range of language to give opinions in part 3. Okay, so first of all, part 1. Right, so as you probably know, there's a short introduction, 3 sets of questions, and the topics are about you and familiar topics. So there's probably going to be about 10 to 14 questions in total in part 1. And this will take about 5 minutes. Okay, so in part 1, you might be asked about hobbies or leisure activities you enjoy. So what might the examiner ask you about? What kinds of topics? Any ideas? So please feel free to just put some ideas in the chat box. Yeah, what you do in your free time, your hobbies, personal topics, Alexis, yes, work, hobbies, yeah, interview, family, all those kinds of things, anything about your daily life, really. Okay, so we've got some ideas here. So obviously the first one is family, and then we've got hobbies, so reading, watching TV, playing football, so those kinds of things. So part 1 is pretty easy, it's the easiest part. Okay, and then you need to think about whether you enjoy, do you enjoy these activities, why or why not? So let's just look at ways of giving, like saying how much you like something or whether you dislike something. So rather than just saying like, okay, which is a little bit dull, we've got some expressions here, some more common expressions. Okay, so firstly this one, I'm quite keen on reading. Does that mean like or dislike? Like, yes. Okay, so please remember, if you use this, just to remember the correct prepositions. It's always keen on something. The next one, I don't see the point of playing football. Yeah, dislike, that's right, yes. I can't stand going to the gym. Dislike, yes. So can't stand is quite strong. What's another way of saying I can't stand? Hate, Narana, that's right. Yes, I hate going to the gym. I find watching TV really relaxing. Yeah, like. I'm not a big fan of action movies. Dislike, that's right. I like to unwind by spending time with my family. Like, yeah, what's a synonym for unwind? What's another way of saying that? Relax. Yes, that's right. Good. Relax. I'm really into this series on Netflix at the moment. Like, that's right. Okay, and then the last one, going shopping for clothes just seems like a waste of time to me. Dislike, that's right. Okay, so there's some really great expressions you can use there. Okay, so just looking at the last bit. What don't you enjoy doing? So can you just put some ideas in the chat? What kind of things don't you enjoy? Reading books, okay. Making food, singing. Yeah, I don't like singing much either. Cooking, taking drugs, that's a good one. Um, Ironing, yeah, I hate ironing as well, yeah. So just make sure that you're preparing for this type of question because they're quite common questions. And thinking of different ways you can talk about what you like, what you don't like. Okay, and now we've got some adjectives here. How would you describe these activities? Which activity would you describe as? Okay, so we've got lovely words here. Exhilarating. A, yes. Any others? I think A is the best one, yeah. So an extreme sport. Okay, relaxing. D, yeah. Stressful. C, okay. I mean, this kind of depends on you. If you really love football, that situation might be a bit stressful. But if you hate football, probably don't care. And pointless. B. Okay, some of you saying B, some of you saying A. Okay, so obviously it totally depends on you. Worthwhile. A. Okay, everyone is saying different things. What's a synonym for worthwhile? Yeah, incredible. Deserving our time, Maria, that's a really good explanation. So deserving of our time, that's a good way of saying it. Worthy of our time, fulfilling, yes, really good synonyms there. Okay, boring. Okay, D. Most of you hate reading. Okay, you need to learn how to do it for IELTS. Exhausting. A, yeah, could be. B could be exhausting, depending on how much you like dancing. Rewarding. Okay, rewarding is a synonym for worthwhile. Yeah, again, you've got different answers there. Okay, just have a look at this one now. So which word is correct? I find going to the cinema really relaxing or really relaxed. Relaxing, that's right. I read a really fascinating or fascinated book the other day. Yeah, fascinating. Good. Watching my team play is always an exhilarating or exhilarated experience. Yeah, ing. So most of you are getting that. Okay, so when you're talking about yourself, you would use ed, and something else, you'd use ing. Okay, and then the last one, I don't like going shopping, it's boring. That's right. Okay, so can you try and change the sentences to ed adjectives? For example, going for walks in the country always makes me feel relaxed. Right, how could you change the first one? Yeah, so the word is relaxed. So you might say, I feel good. I feel relaxed when I go to the cinema. I'm relaxed when going to the cinema. Yes. Sorry, I was going to look at the next one. I read a really fascinating book the other day. So the next one. Yeah, I got fascinated about the book I read the other day. I was fascinated by the book I read the other day. Okay, that would make sense. The next one, watching my team play is always an exhilarating experience. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I got exhilarated watching my team. That's right. I feel exhilarated when I watch my team play. Good. And the last one, I don't like going shopping. It's boring. It makes me feel bored when I go shopping. That's right. Great. Okay. Yeah, I'm bored when I go shopping. That's right. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. Right, so just looking at how to talk about your hobbies. So common topic is free time. What do you like to do to relax? It's a common question. You might say, I like running. Okay, so both Jamie and I like running, so this is probably what we'd say. But the problem with that answer is that it's too short. So how could we develop this? Yeah, so you've all got completely different hobbies. That's great. I find that running makes me relaxed. I'm interested in running. Okay, that is definitely better than saying I like, but you really need a much longer answer. So I'm just going to show you a structure you can use to answer this type of question. So firstly, you would answer the question. You might start with a phrase like this, okay? Rather than going straight in and just saying, I like running, you can start off with a phrase like, well, I'd say that. My favorite something is probably running. Hobby, yes, hobby makes sense. Any other words you could use? Leisure, activity, sport, yeah, pastime, yes, they're all fine. Well, I'd say that my favorite pastime is probably running. Okay, and then you would give a reason. I find it really, oh, so Gabby, pastime is just another word for hobby or leisure activity. I find it really relaxing, would make sense, engaging, fascinating. Okay, maybe not fascinating so much, but relaxing could be engaging. So we've chosen relaxing. And then you would give an example. In a typical week, I'll go out for a run 3 or 4 times. And an alternative, so you can use a nice concession phrase here. On the other hand, if the weather's really bad, I'll go and something in my local gym instead. What could you say there? Use, okay, so you've got in there. So, well, yes, somebody said it. So work out in my local gym instead. Okay. And then you might summarize what you've said to kind of wrap up the answer. So yeah, I'm quite a something person. So that's what I'll usually do in my free time. Active, sporty, yeah, they make sense. We've chosen sporty. Athletic makes sense there as well. Okay, so as you can see, if you just look on the left-hand side, we've got this structure here. And a way to remember it is it's an acronym which spells out areas. All right, so you can follow those different points and that will give you a really full answer. So just looking at the answer, so the phrasal verbs, can you see any phrasal verbs there? Work out, yes. Any others? Go out, that's right. We've got 2 phrasal verbs. Okay, we also use adverbs, and so we've got probably and really. Okay, and vague language. So this is the kind of language we use very regularly. It just makes what you're saying sound really natural. So yeah, I'm quite a, okay, that's a very natural expression in English. So as you can see, it's fairly informal, but it's just how you would speak. And then usually as well. Okay, another thing to notice is the verb form. So we've got the use of the expression I'll something, and that's for habit. Okay, so we've got I'll go out for a run, and the other one, I'll go and work out. Okay, so it's some things that you do on a regular basis. You can say I'll. Okay, so have a look at these questions here. Do you think hobbies should be shared with other people? That's one. Did you have a hobby when you were a child? Why do you think people have hobbies? Okay, so we don't have too much time today to go through everything. So I would suggest that you make a note of these questions and look at the structure at the side. Okay, so you've got answer the question, give a reason, give an example, give an alternative, and then summarize. So if you look at the last question, so it says why, so you wouldn't really be, you'd answer it, but answering it is also giving a reason. Okay, so maybe for some of them you can't do every single one, but most of them you can. So it'd be a great idea just to practice doing that. Okay, so as I said, we've got quite a lot to cover today, so I'm kind of rushing through a few parts of it, but you can obviously go back later and have a look. So moving on to part 2, so this is planning your talk. Okay, so for part 2, how long do you normally have to speak for? 2 minutes, that's right. And how long do you have to prepare? Yeah, 1 minute. So it doesn't sound too long, but you know, to speak for 2 minutes, you need to be quite well prepared for that. And a common topic in part 2 is to describe a book, movie, or a TV show that you know. So it'd be a good idea just to think in advance of what you could talk about. Yes, you can look at the paper when you're speaking, Saif, so you can take some notes and then you can start to speak. So here are 2 examples. Describe a book you read when you were a child. So you should say what kind of book it was, who wrote the book, what the story of the book is, and explain if it's a good book or not. Okay, and then a similar type of question. So describe a film you have seen recently. Again, you should say the name of the film, when you saw it, what the film is about, and explain whether it was enjoyable or not. So some of you are asking some great questions. It'd be a really good idea if you put them in the chat box. Sorry, if you put them in the Q&A box, so we can address them at the end. So just looking at how you can plan your talk, okay? So firstly, think about the genre of the books or films. What does the word genre mean? Type, that's right, or theme, yes, exactly. Okay, so this one? Action, that's right. This one? Yeah, romantic or tragedy. Actually, sorry for that one. If it's a kind of funny sort of romantic film, do you know what we call those types of films, which are quite common? Yeah, good. Somebody's got it. Are you Simi? I think your name is rom-com. Yeah, some of you got that. Rom-com. This one? Comedy. That's right, Mr. Bean. And then this one. Thriller. That's right. Okay. I think it's coming up, yeah. Another one actually for the romantic tragedy one. So a film that generally women will watch or young women is a chick flick. That's another good word to use, chick flick. Okay, so just looking at how to plan your talk. So this is a kind of a common problem with this. So when talking about a book or a film, many students describe the story but then quickly run out of things to say. So you don't need to stick to the prompts on the card. And as I said, we'll give you a structure now that will help you to be able to speak for 2 minutes. You're not going to run out of things to say. Okay, so the first part, you would introduce the book or the film. And in this part, you would give the name, you would give the author or the director of the film, You might name the genre, and you might say why you've chosen to talk about it. And then you would give the background to the film. Yeah, the name can be in Arabic as long as it's something that you've watched. Because obviously we wouldn't be seeing it, you'd just be talking about it. So with the background, when did you read the book, or when did you watch the film? Where did you see it or get it from? And again, why did you choose to read or watch it? And then you might introduce the main characters. Who are they? What do they want? And outline the plot. So what happens in the story, looking at the beginning, the middle, and the end. And then finally giving your opinion. So did you enjoy the book or the film? Why? Would you recommend it to other people? Okay, so obviously in order to do this, you really need to have a book and a film in mind that you can talk about quite easily. So you just need to do a little bit of preparation really for that. So I'll just give you an example of what I mean. So we have this film here, Leave No Trace. Okay, so things to think about. What do you think this film is about? Adventure, thriller, yes, I think so. I haven't actually seen it myself, but I think it looks like it is. Yeah, that's the genre. And then thinking about how you might describe the main characters. Obviously, it can be difficult, maybe for you if you haven't seen it, but it could be brave, that's right. Action, active people, yeah. And then what do you think happens? Okay, so I'll just give you an example here, how you might do this. So you could start by saying, today I'd like to talk about a movie I've seen recently. Okay, so that's a nice lead in. The name of the movie is Leave No Trace. I'm not entirely sure who the director is, but I think they are American. Okay, so you don't need to have all the information, you just need to be able to speak naturally about it in this way. The movie is a type of family drama set in the Pacific Northwest of the USA. I chose to talk about this film because I really enjoyed it and it left a big impression on me. Okay, so all of that is really for the first part. But obviously you don't need to include everything, it's just some of the things you could say. And then some phrases that we've kind of isolated from there. So today I'd like to talk about the name of the movie is, I'm not entirely sure who the director is, but I think the movie is a type of something set in, I chose to talk about this film because. And then Adela, so you're asking if every piece of information must be true. I mean, you could say, oh, I can't quite remember, or as in the third example, I'm not entirely sure who. Okay, so if you're talking about your favorite film, you should know something about it. But yeah, you can maybe make up a little bit of the information. And then looking at the background. So when did you read it, or when did you watch it? So I watched this movie at home with my partner. And then you can give a little bit of a narrative. So a little bit of a story here. So you're using narrative tenses. It was a Friday night. We were both tired from working all week. So we decided just to have a quiet one and catch a movie together. I chose this one because it had a 5-star review. So we thought we'd check it out. We ended up streaming it from Netflix. Okay, so as you can see, it's like a little story here explaining why you watched that film. And it's using idiomatic expressions. To have a quiet one is a very common expression in English. Catch a movie, another common expression. So if you talk for longer than 2 minutes, you'll probably get stopped by the examiner, Joseph. So it's better to talk longer than less, less time. And then phrasal verbs. So to check something out is a nice common expression in English. And to end up doing it. So to end up plus ing. Okay, so a little bit of background on your film. So just take, like Isa said, isolate these expressions and try and apply them to your film later, so after you've watched the video. And then looking at the third part, so thinking about the characters. There are two main characters in the movie, a father and his daughter. The father is an army veteran, has some emotional problems. He wants to hide from society. His daughter is about 13 years old. She loves her father, but also wants to live a normal life. Okay, so as you can see, that's just a basic summary of the two main characters. So just taking out some of those expressions. There are two main characters in the movie, X and Y. X is he or she wants to, and then the same for the other character. Okay, and then the plot. Right, so at the beginning of the movie, they are living in a forest outside a big city. They're both happy and life seems perfect. Okay, I'm just going to put this up. So as I said, you can have a look and watch this afterwards because I'm trying to cover as much as we can. There's a lot of material in here. But yeah, this is just explaining the basic plot, using some nice conjunctions there as well. And then a really good expression at the end. I won't spoil the ending of the movie for you, but okay, that's a nice way to wrap it up. So notice that we use the present continuous to introduce the initial situation, but we use the present simple to describe main events. Yeah, so somebody's asking Adiola about 2 minutes. As I said, there's quite a lot of information, so you can just select what you like from there and maybe just practice giving an answer. You know, see how long it takes, because you find that you can actually say quite a lot in 2 minutes, so probably more than you realize. Okay, and then using these expressions to talk about your movie here. So at the beginning of the movie, but then eventually, I won't spoil the ending of the movie for you, but okay, so as I said before, I would suggest choosing a movie and then just practicing using these expressions. And finally, the opinion. Did you enjoy the book or film? And then give a reason why. So I really enjoyed this movie because the story was compelling, the visual design was stunning, and the acting was superb. So you've got some lovely adjectives in there. I definitely recommend this film to anyone who likes thought-provoking films with interesting characters. Okay, and then again, just taking out some of these useful expressions and applying them to your film. Okay, so let's just quickly look at part 3. So this is giving an opinion. So it's when you're asked questions related to your part 2 topic. Okay, so then this topic kind of relates to the previous questions. Let's talk now about art and culture in general. All right, so we've just got some questions here. Do you think children should study art in school? Okay, what do you think? Yes, I guess it's very important. Yeah, yes, so everyone's saying yes. Okay, so these questions tend to be more abstract than the previous parts, the questions from the previous parts. So they can be a little bit more difficult to answer. So you do have to generally give your opinion. Okay, so which words tell you that you need to give an opinion, do you think? Okay, so that obviously is asking for your opinion. How about this one? Some people say that violent films and video games make people violent. Do you agree? Yes, I agree. Nope. Okay, hell no. Okay, some people are saying yes, some people no. But do you agree? Okay, so that is asking for your opinion. So yes or no, and why. And then the last example, should the government provide support for cultural activities? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So again, asking for your opinion, and it's should shows that it wants your opinion there. Okay, I'm going to give you some phrases for giving an opinion here. So instead of saying I think or yes, or whatever. So these are some ways you can give your opinion. 4 of them contain mistakes. Which 4 have mistakes? So number 1, is that correct? From my opinion, no. No. What should it be? In. That's right. Sorry, number 2 is correct. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead a bit. Number 3, correct? Correct. Okay, most of you are saying yes. People are saying no. Okay, no, it's not correct. So we're just highlighting the words that aren't correct. And what should that one be, number 3? Concerned. That's right, ED. And then 4 is correct. What about 5? Is 5 okay? Is 5 correct or not? Yeah, 3 is concerned. That's right. Okay, 5 is correct from my point of view. Okay, so that one, we always say from my point of view, but we'd say in my view. So make sure you've got the correct preposition. Is number 6 okay? Number 6, no. Some people are saying yes. Okay, number 6 isn't okay, so that's wrong. So what's the problem with number 6? Yes, you don't need so it's just I completely agree with the idea that. And number 7. Yeah, so this one isn't correct. So I strongly disagree. What should it be? Not disagree about, disagree with. That's right, good. Okay, so just correcting those ones. In my opinion, as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, completely agree with the idea that. I strongly disagree with the idea that. Okay, so let's just quickly, we've just got a couple of minutes. I'll just ask you these questions. So do you think children should study art in schools? So just give me an answer using one of those phrases if you can. So see if you can give me an answer. Personally, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, I strongly agree. Good. I strongly agree with the idea that. Yeah, so they're good ways to start, as far as I'm concerned. Yep. It seems to me that children should really study art in school. Okay, that's another one. Yeah, it seems to me that. Yeah. Yeah, so some of you giving reasons. We haven't really got much time to look through the reasons, but you're all starting with some really great expressions. Let's have a look at the next one. So some people say that violent films and video games make people violent. Do you agree? So, and hell no, it's that's a nice expression. Actually, it's quite natural, but it's probably not better, it's not a good idea to say it in IELTS. Seems to me that, yeah, no, I completely disagree with the idea that violent films and video games make people violent. Yeah, definitely agree, yes. Can trigger some psychological disorders. Somebody said, which is a, yeah, really, really good point. Okay, so you've got one or two really good expressions there, good answers. Right, and then the last one. So should the government provide support for cultural activities? What do you think? Personally, I think that the government should provide, yeah. Oh, okay, 6. I completely agree with the idea of that. Seems to me that, yeah, so you're all giving some really good sort of sentence openers there. Yeah, the government plays a vital role in cultural activities. That's a good point, yes. Good. Okay, we've just about done it, yeah. So are there any questions?
Awesome. I'd just like to say a very, very big thank you, Mary, for that presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, for getting through a lot of material as well.
Yeah,
So well
sorry,
done.
I was racing through a little bit, but hopefully
No.
you followed me okay.
Yeah, no, I thought you did great. So well done. So yeah. So guys, thank you as well for suggesting some really good answers there. Some great vocabulary. Some quite funny expressions as well you're coming up with. So yeah, well done, everyone. We will have some time now to discuss any questions you have about the topic today, about the speaking test, or any general questions you have about IELTS. So if you could add your questions to the Q&A, we will take a look at them in a moment. So please, you can write up your questions to the Q&A. And yeah, thank you for the feedback, guys. I'm glad you found that helpful. Awesome. Before we discuss your questions, I would just like to do a bit of promotion for our speaking evaluation service, which we offer on our website, IELTSonlinetest.com. I have just put a link to that in the chat, so you can follow the link and find out a bit more information about it. Basically, if you're interested in improving your speaking score, you can book a mock speaking test with one of our team of speaking examiners. We'll go through a full mock test with you via Zoom, and we can then give you feedback on your performance, where your strengths are, any areas of weakness, common mistakes that you're making while you're speaking. And by identifying these, we can help you to improve your speaking and suggest things that you can do to help you improve your band score. So the information is on our website. We offer a similar service for writing evaluation. So you can submit a piece of writing, we'll check it for you, and we'll give you feedback on your writing as well. So if you're interested, do check that out on our website, and yeah, hopefully it will be useful for you. So, okay. Right, guys, I can see a lot of your questions in the Q&A, so I think we better start having a look at them. Hopefully we can get through some of them in the time that we have available. So I'll just open up the Q&A. We can take a look at the first question. How are you doing there, Mary?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I was just a lot of questions. I'm kind of looking at some of them there. Jamie, you there? Okay, I think Jamie's...
The chat.
Yeah, Jamie just disappeared for a second there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that my screen just froze. How about now? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, but I think you've frozen. I don't know what everyone else, if everyone else can hear you okay.
Yeah, sure. We'll just like hopefully if I disappear, we'll just muddle on. So here we go. We've got the first question here. First question here is from Leo about the part 1 of the speaking test. Is it better to give a longer answer, or is 2 or 3 sentences enough? What would be a good kind of length of answer?
Well, part 1, if you remember, it's only actually 4 to 5 minutes, and you'll be given questions on 3 different areas, and quite a lot of questions in that time. So I think it's like 10 to 14 questions. So you haven't really got time to give long answers. So fairly short. So it's more the part 3 where you give a longer answer.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. You don't need to, two or three sentences should be fine. I think one thing to bear in mind is if the examiner thinks your answer is a bit short, they are going to ask you why. They can ask you one follow-up question, which is why. So that's kind of prompting you to give a bit more information. So to make life easier for the examiner, you can answer that question before they ask you it. So always try to give an explanation for your answer. You know, I like running because, you know, this is my pastime because if you just give a very short answer, like I like running, it's not really long enough. So it's good to give a bit more of an explanation. Okay. Let's see. Thank you for the feedback, Gabby. That's lovely to hear. I'm glad you enjoyed the session. Let's see. We have a question here. What are the differences between part 1 and part 3 in the test? And that's a question from Nam.
Okay, well, I mean, part 3, there tend to be more like the more abstract the questions, the more of a more abstract nature. So they're probably slightly more difficult to answer, and you're giving your opinion, and they're going to be connected with what you talked about in part 2. Whereas part 1, you don't. The kind of questions you can probably answer quite easily without giving too much thought to the answers. Although obviously you need to give good answers.
Yeah, definitely. If I could just add as well that part 1 is kind of like everyday personal topics. So it's okay to talk about you, your friends, your family, to give examples, you know, personal examples. Whereas in part 3, it's more about a test of how you can speak generally. So you should avoid giving personal examples like, you know, my friend plays tennis. It's more, you should try to make it general about people in your country. So you can say, well, you know, generally speaking, people in my country like to play tennis, or, you know, a lot of people do this. So speaking generally rather than about your own personal friends and family is better. Okay, so let's see. I can see a couple of people are asking about upcoming webinars and live lessons. I've put a link in the chat. You can find out all the information about our next sessions. We usually have a lesson on Monday and also on Thursday as well. So if you keep an eye out on the website, you can find all the details there. Okay, let's see. A question, it's a good question from Abdul Rahman. Abdul Rahman is asking, should we use idioms as much as possible?
Well, I don't know about as much as possible, but it would be a good idea to use some idioms because it's naturally how we speak. But if you're kind of throwing in idioms to try and impress the examiner, that's not a good idea. So you just need to try and use English naturally, and that will obviously involve using more sort of colloquial or idiomatic expressions because that's what we tend to do. But just make sure, as I said, make sure it sounds natural and you're not just putting an idiom in every sentence to show off what you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Abdurrahman, if you'd like more information about this, we covered it in quite a lot of detail in our vocabulary for IELTS webinar, which is up on our YouTube channel. We have a section on idiomatic language and the types of idiomatic language which are good to include in the speaking test, and the types that are better to avoid. So it's worth checking out that webinar for more information. Okay, I can see a couple of questions here about part 2 of the test. So Aditya is asking, is it all right if I speak for less than 2 minutes in part 2? For example, if I run out of things to say after a minute and a half.
I mean, I think it's better, it's better if you can speak for 2 minutes, because you really want to show the examiner how much you know. And if you practice a lot beforehand, you will know how long 2 minutes is. Because as I said before, you can actually say quite a lot in 2 minutes, and it's longer really than you realize. But if you get used to speaking for that length of time, you should know. I mean, it is between 1 and 2 minutes, so I guess 1.5 is okay, but I think 2 minutes is better.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Jamie?
I would strongly recommend speaking for 2 minutes. In very rare situations, the examiner might stop you before the 2 minutes is up, but that's generally if they think that they've heard enough that, you're a clear band 9, for example, they'll stop you. But 99.9% of the time, it's better to continue speaking until the examiner stops you. They'll tell you when 2 minutes is finished. Just keep speaking. If you run out of things to say, that can affect your score, because part of the criteria is being able to speak, be able to continue speaking for a long time, which is classed as 2 minutes. If you run out of things to say, you'll probably lose marks for fluency and coherence, and it might even prevent you getting more than a band 6 or even a band 5, because you're not able to continue for 2 minutes. So better, if you do run out of things to say, the examiner will probably say, can you tell me anything more about that? So they'll prompt you to keep speaking as well. So, definitely keep going as much as you can with planning. Like if you plan your answer well and you use the structure that we looked at in this lesson, it can help you to keep going as well. Yes, Abdiodan, for real, it could be a band 5 if you can't continue, because that's the criteria. A band 6, I think, is able to continue speaking for 2 minutes, but might need to repeat yourself or hesitate or lose coherence. But if you're just not able to keep going for 2 minutes, then that might just be a band 5. Yeah. So, okay. Excellent. Let's see. We've got quite a few questions here. There was another question about part 2 actually in the chat. Sorry, I couldn't see your name, but you were asking whether it's important to cover all the bullet points or not. Should we try to cover all the bullet points in part 2?
For part 2, I think, they're just really there as kind of prompts for you to kind of help you to speak. So I think it's probably helpful because it just enables you to structure your answer a bit more easily. Yeah. So I would recommend doing that. What would you say, James?
Yeah, no, I'd agree. They're there to help you, as you said, and it's not essential though. So don't worry if you don't cover them. They're there as a guide, just to help you get ideas. But if you don't talk about any of them, it won't affect your score. It's as long as you're talking about the general topic, that's fine. So there's no need to worry too much about covering all the information on the card. And similarly, Birendra in the chat says, if I've continued speaking, but I only cover the introduction and a few ideas, but I don't draw a conclusion or finish my story by the time the 2 minutes is up, is that a problem? What will happen then? Well, can I answer this one?
Yeah.
So Brenda, that's great. If you can keep talking for 2 minutes and you only have introduced the topic and you've started to discuss the topic, and then the examiner stops you because you've run out of time, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to finish your story. You don't need to cover all the points. You can digress a bit. Abiodun is absolutely fine. The main thing is just, can you talk for 2 minutes roughly about the topic that you're given? So you don't have to complete a story in that sense. Okay, let's see, guys. We've got 5 minutes left, so we'll see if we can crack on with a few more of your questions. My screen is still freezing, so it's getting hard for me to see some of these. Let's see. A question from Tulio. I think your question is, can we choose to talk about a book or a TV show in the test? Do we have a choice about the topic we're given?
This is for part 2?
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, normally it would say, I don't think it gives a choice. I think it would say, wouldn't it? It would say talk about a book or talk about a film.
Yeah.
I haven't actually seen ones where you can choose, because they're supposed to just tell you what you have to talk about for part 2.
Yeah, I think that's right. Usually you can't choose. I think like you might be able to get away with changing the topic if you do it in a natural way. So if someone says, okay, if the topic is talk about a film that you've seen, you could, and you're like, well, I can't think of a film. It's like, well, actually, I haven't seen any films recently, but I did read a book that has been turned into a film. Let me tell you a bit about the book. That would be okay, because you've kind of changed the topic. It's still related to the original topic, but you're not just saying, ignoring the topic and talking about the book. So it's you need to do it in a kind of natural way, and that should be fine. Okay, great. Let's see, guys. We've had a few questions here about, how long does it take to prepare for the test? And, is it easy to get a band 5.5 or 6? Mary, could you say maybe a bit about this? It's a kind of, I've answered it a bit in the chat already, in the Q&A. It's a bit like, how long is a piece of string?
Yeah,
kind of,
exactly.
yeah.
It's a bit of a broad question, because obviously it depends on where you're starting from, like the level you're at when you first start. It's really difficult to answer. I mean, I would just recommend, getting as much speaking practice as possible. I don't know. It's a difficult one.
Yeah.
Because some people have, different abilities. Some people can learn to speak very quickly. Others, it takes much longer. So I'll probably need to meet you to be able to tell you that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we can help you integrate anyway.
Sure. I think, as you said, Mary, I'd agree. It really depends on your current ability, the score that you're aiming for, where your current strengths and weaknesses are. So, some students might be able to improve their band score, by 1 band in a month if they study intensively. But for some of the higher bands, like a 7 or an 8, this might take a lot longer to improve your general level of English. I think there's a certain amount of improvement can come through learning test strategy and learning, getting better at taking the test, and that improvement can come quite quickly. But there's also just a general level of English that you need for each band, and that can take longer to improve depending on how much practice you have, how much feedback you have from a teacher, how much study you put in. So lots of factors there to think about. Okay, guys, I'm afraid we are going to need to wrap up for today, because we've come up to the end of the session. So I just want to say a very big thank you to Mary for presenting today.
Yeah,
And
thank you. Thank you very much, Jamie.
yeah,
Glad there were no problems today.
no, it's remarkably smoothly. We
Yes.
got through everything
And
really well. So
thank you for being so, being so proactive in the chat box, everyone as well. It was great to see all your comments and
yeah,
questions and points. It's really nice.
yeah,
So thank you.
awesome. Yeah, yeah. Cheers, guys. Thank you for joining us. And if we didn't manage to cover your questions today, you can add them as comments on our YouTube channel. The video for this session will be up on our YouTube channel tomorrow. You can add any questions as comments on there. We do check them and we can get back to you with answers, okay? And if not, then we hope to see you again in another lesson soon. We'll have a lot more lessons in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, thanks very much, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. See you soon, everyone.
Cheers, guys. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.